Hey everybody, it's Jeremy. Welcome to a new Dominions 5 game. This is EA Tetragrammaton, where we are going to be playing the Nation of Just a quick rundown of what the settings for this game are. There are 12 players in this game, 12 thrones, 7 level 2, 5 level 3, 17 ascension points required. This has better arena and worthy heroes on it. Otherwise, it's a pretty typical game, pretty vanilla game. So let's go ahead and. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into the turn. I've already done the turn. This is gonna be the practice that I have. The vast majority of the time is to do turns and then walk back through them with you. So here we are in the city of So there will have been a video prior to this discussing as a whole and what our god currently is. This is our god, Nezar II, an Anunnaki of growth and rebirth, with 6 earth, 4 astral, 7 nature. If you haven't seen that video yet, our bless is magic weapons, natural protection 5, and regeneration. So pretty hefty bless, but pretty basic. This is actually a new scenario for me as far as goes. Normally when I play I like to play full scales and really lean into some of their more powerful mages and the fact that they just have semi-decent-ish troops, size 3 giants, so you can pack 2 into a square and then have decent hit points and stats, etc, etc. They're not the greatest, the worst, they're not size 4 or size 5, but again, they're not the greatest. So this is kind of a new scenario. I don't normally play a robust bless on but I wanted to try something different out. And after my last couple games, which have been very, very long games, honestly, I was kind of okay going into a game with the chance that I was going to get slaughtered early, which is part of the reason why I'm playing I'm going to get some hate for that. Let's take a look at the map, shall we? So this is a fixed position map. So let's go over where we are versus the people that we know to be in relation to us. So this is where we are in To the north of us, we have Agartha. To the south of us, in the water, we have Relay. To the east of us, we have Femoria. And to the west of us, we have Angie. Not the greatest setup for us. Not necessarily the worst setup for us. Pangea can be... It's EA Pangea, so that can be a nightmare very early on. Femoria can be a bit of a nightmare once they get up and rolling. Agartha can be very strong. I definitely feel like we are the weak nation in the bunch, which is one of the reasons why I decided to go with a decent bless, because I didn't think I would be able to avoid war for long enough for full scales to take effect. So we're going to try to rely on our Musushus, right? These are very good units, but they're only limited to recruitment 1. They're very, very expensive. But with a hard skin, they're going to be protection 20. With regeneration, they're going to be regenerating 6... I think it's 6 HP per turn. And then with magic weapons, they can deal with a couple of different weird things. Throw in our Inki's Chosen, which are also sacred, which benefit marginally from the protection bless. I think their protection goes up to like 14. They do nicely with the regeneration, and magic weapons just gives them some efficacy against hero units, basically. And then we do also have other sacreds in the form of our Kusaraki. Kusarikis? I don't know. They're little demon men. They are magic, I believe. So we can only actually carry a couple of them around unless we're forging equipment for them, or forging equipment for people to lead them. So that's something to be aware of. But we can, and we only get 2 per 6 earth gems, which isn't the greatest exchange, but we can pump out little decent squadrons of these, and they're not bad. Okay. I'm going over things that I've already discussed in the previous video. Let's talk about, let's cover the other positions. So we'll start with Pangea's north and south. So north of Pangea, here we have Tirnanog, and then south of Pangea, here we have Kailasa. Keep going east from west from Pangea. Here we have Mictlan. Okay. Here we have Sauromatia. And here we have Hinnom. Up over here, this is Fomoria once more. To the north of Fomoria, we have Yomi, which makes sense because there's the cluster of caves. And then to the south of Fomoria, here, we have Lunka. So, kind of an interesting mix on what all is happening. Let's also check Thrones of Ascension. So we've got the 5 tier 3s and the 7 tier 2s. Makes for a very interesting spread on what is possible as far as getting different thrones. Making throne rushes very interesting, dynamic, right? Because it's not just all 2s or all 3s or all 1s or anything. Very interesting. I wonder why there's one throne up here. Doesn't look like it's all alphabetical. Anyways, we've got the Throne of the Sun. It's a very nice throne. Just a lot of good shit. I would love the Throne of the Sun. We got the Shattered Throne, which increases magic and misfortune. Oh, pretty good stuff. Throne of Destiny, spreads dominion, gives you luck, gives you order. Throne of the First Stage gives magic and blesses with magic resistance. Throne of Abundance just gives you a shit ton of gems and some gold, but it also gives you sloth. Throne of Eternal Suffering gives +1 order, +1 productivity, but +1 misfortune. Throne of Life gives +1 growth and 3 nature gems. Throne of the Moon gives +1 growth, 3 precision, and some water and astral. Throne of the Earth gives reinvigoration, which is super nice. 2 Earth Gnome recruitment, which isn't half bad for a lot of nations, but is kind of worthless for us. And boost Earth Ritual range by 1 province. Throne of the Air gives Air Shield, 2 Air Gems, Wind Masters, which are pretty nice, period. We have comparable mages, though. Not a huge for us. And I think our mages are actually... Yeah, our mages are sacred, so these guys are not the greatest for us. But boosts Air Ritual range by 1. Crystal Throne, which is Dominion, Earth Astral, and Crystal Mages, which Crystal Mages are amazing for anyone. Almost anyone. And then you have the Golden Throne, which just gives gold, and Adepts of the Golden Lord, which are also pretty nice. Not as good as Crystal Mages, but still pretty nice. So, pretty interesting thrones. This is going to be cool as far as thrones go. We are in a very interesting map position. Relay could be annoying, but more than likely... I feel like it's hard for Relay to challenge early, but we'll see. Agartha, Pangaea, and Femoria are all definitely strong enough to challenge. But I think Agartha might be one of the only players really capable of challenging Relay, except for maybe Femoria, but Fomoria's kind of got a weird border with the big pond. So maybe we could actually get Agartha or Femoria or both to be more focused on Relay. I don't want to get headhunted by Pangaea. I'm hopeful, right? We've got some forested land over here, right? I'm hopeful, though, that Pangaea sees other forests as much more interesting to go for rather than ours. They want this throne. I'm generally more accepting. What I find most interesting, obviously, is these big-ass farmlands. We got Kohnberg here. We've got something in 124, and both of these are large provinces. We can tell. Okay. We actually have a couple of large provinces in us. This Sinkhole Swamp is actually a large province. You're supposed to be able, and I could be wrong, but you're supposed to be able to tell a large province by the little houses, right? So I guess technically these two are large provinces. This is a massive province, because I think it's supposed to be the more houses, the bigger. But who knows? So, we've got a lot of big provinces around us. So that's really good because our scales are kind of meh. So that's good for us. We should be able to get Kohnberg without any real issue. Hopefully we'll be able to get 109. Getting 24, though, that's going to be a bit of a stretch. So it's going to depend on how aggressive Agartha is, where our Dominion goes, because we do have an Anunnaki of Growth and Rebirth, so this guy is a pretty decent expander. Okay. So that's interesting. So we're going to have to see how this all kind of pans out. Okay. So what are we doing for our first turn? We are researching with our... We're not going to blind expand. We're researching because there are a handful of things. The Anunnaki does very good against 80% of things, but if it runs into like barbarians or bone tribe or lizards, too many lizards, right, he'll get popped. So we're going to research for a turn. We are going to prophetize our Enkidu commander, Nisanapada, First King. So he's going to be a prophet. We're going to have Scout 1 head out into Kun Aral and probably beyond. We're probably going to go either look into what's going on with Agartha early or look into what's going on with Pangaea early. And we are recruiting a couple of things. So we're recruiting a Salme very early on because there is a event, double check. One, we're recruiting it because it's cheap and it's a research mage and we can go ahead and start researching. Two, all of our mages are also sacred. So that's good as far as upkeep cost goes. But they're all also priests, so that's also useful. So a Salme is just an all-round decently cheap, useful option for it. We're going to be getting a Musushu every turn, because we're going to be relying on them. And we're going to try to fill out our holy points with Inky's Chosen whenever we can. Otherwise, grabbing Urguards. Typically, sometimes we will jump in to get Spear Guards or Soldiers. These guys aren't bad. Their stats are just a little mediocre, but comparatively, like, you can pump out way more of them. Right now, having 2 of these versus an Urguard, the Urguard is more likely to survive in a battle. So it's actually good for us to try to decrease the amount of attrition that we take. So, fingers crossed there. We need to expand into some of these larger provinces very quickly because we need the income. Our income is very bad. Research-wise, because we do have Nazar the Second, who is researching at 39 points. So we can do any one of our magic schools immediately. We're going to actually take Thaumaturgy, and this is for a randomly weird reason, but it's actually for Far Strike. So if you've never used Far Strike, or if you've ever had the misfortune of having Thaumaturgy 1 and not much else, and then having the Earth Astral Crosspath, typically it's kind of like Blink. It's one of those scenarios if it's like, oh god, why are you casting this? Far Strike can be very meh, right? But it's got a very long range, it's got a decent precision, it's got very low fatigue cost, and it's 17 magic damage, magic blunt damage. But it's the strength of the caster added, and that's the big deal for us. And that's because Nazar II has 25 strength. So this is hitting for 42 damage, which is pretty steep at a decently high precision, a very low fatigue cost, and you gotta remember, Nazar comes with his own screen. So, I have found, it's not always the case, sometimes you just get bad luck and it doesn't really do much of anything. Nazar doesn't really need, or the Ananuki of Growth and Rebirth doesn't really need a whole lot to help him expand because of the built-in Vine Shield, right? It's typically all that he needs. But being able to one-pop some units as they are kind of heading towards you is pretty helpful. It can really turn the tide, especially if it's like knights or something like that. Right, it can be pretty nice. So I would normally just rush straight for alteration using a awake expander like this, right? I try to get up to like Iron Skin or Temper Flesh to make them as strong as possible, and that is the plan. We're gonna immediately go into alteration afterwards. Also because getting into Swarm early on can be very, very useful for us. Very useful defensive measure. It's basically like our elementals for nature. But also Mother Oak, eventually. In theory, it depends, right? If Pangea is normally the claimant to Mother Oak, and there's very little that we're going to be able to do to just straight fight Pangea on a Mother Oak claim. They make way more nature income than we do. But if Pangea is not around for very long in the early game, depends on how things go, right? So we want to be prepared and see how things shake out. The generalized plan. I burned my hand earlier, so I'm kind of in awkward state right now. I've got this kind of like useless hand over here that I'm kind of having to nurse. Anyways, this is going on way longer than originally. So that's what we're doing as far as research goes. We're not making any moves this turn. And that's pretty much it. That's about as far as the scenario goes. So, I have no real plans for this game. We're not doing a big roleplay scenario this game. This isn't a big mod nation game, etc. So this is probably going to be a pretty vanilla, basic experience. And my hope, my goal with it, I guess, if I have any goal, is basically to just have a chill time. For me, is one of those nations that I just kind of like get comfy and relaxed and chill on. And from there, you know, we can kind of like have a relaxed, chill time. That's the plan anyway. Probably I'm gonna get smashed in sub 30 turns because I'm EA next to a Pangea, a Fomoria, and an Agartha. So at least I'm not next to the Pangea, Henom, and like, I don't know, Tirnanog or something like that. I guess Tirnanog's not super scary. anyways, this should be a pretty vanilla experience, so if that's your thing, stick around. See you next time. Bye, everybody.